If I asked you what Wonder Woman 1984, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and Bad Santa 2 had in common, what would come to mind first? Sequelitis, the tendency for well-received work to spawn many inferior sequels. It's a plague that's affected predominantly movie studios and cost them many millions of dollars in the pursuit of recapturing an original movie's charm. But this is not always the case. For example, Empire Strikes Back, T2 Judgment Day, and Top Gun Maverick are all movies that are widely regarded by fans as being better than the original. Now, I know I've only been using movies as an example for how this phenomena of sequelitis can affect a follow-up to any movie or story, but what I predominantly wanted to talk about today is how games can also see this same kind of phenomena, but more importantly, a massive injustice I think that has been occurring recently in the wake of Insomniac games revealing that there will be no story DLC for the Marvel Spider-Man 2 game. Now, with that news, a lot of fans, and myself included, were extremely disappointed to hear that there would be no DLC and follow-up to any of the story or side missions that occurred in the game. But at the same time, there's also been an overwhelming amount of hate because of this news, and fans have taken Insomniac's lack of progression for the story in Spider-Man 2 with DLC as a kind of stab in the back or some sort of betrayal or whatever else. Fans have felt like the game or the studio Insomniac have not treated them super well for the amount of support that the game got on original release. You got to remember, this game sold 2.5 million copies on just day one and has since sold over 11 million copies in total. It was also nominated for 7 Game of the Year awards, but unfortunately they didn't win any of those categories. Nevertheless, this game was extremely well received on its release. I talked a little bit more about it on stream today while I was playing Ghost of Tsushima for the first time, and I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts on the sorts of things that I really enjoyed about the game. Well, this group of people, they're kind of saying that the game was never good to begin with, which is just an absolutely insane thing to say, and just objectively wrong, I think, as well. Spider-Man 2 was, I would say, a pretty big step up from the first game. A couple reasons for that. I think the combat was massively improved. You got proper boss fights with like health bars and shit, and they were a bit more challenging to complete as well. Sorry to jump scare you here, but also one of the things I wanted to say about the combat was the fact that you had two sorts of different abilities in the game with Miles and with Peter. So Peter had his regular attacks, but also had the Venom special abilities as well. And then Miles had 2 separate abilities too. I think one of those was the electric ability that he has, and then he had a separate kind of combat ability, which was awesome to be able to juggle those two and kind of pick which sorts of attacks and combos and shit that you really do enjoy. And not only that, they weren't all available at the start of the game, and you couldn't all have them at once. So you had to kind of pick and choose what sort of combos and attacks and shit that you really did enjoy, and then make a little wheel out of them. So yeah, you also got the wingsuit, which was crazy. You got to switch between Miles and Peter. You got a far more alive city as well, I would say. There were actual consequences of the main missions you do. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure it's the first mission in the game with Sandman. And then for a majority of the game until
Lady Masako should be
like
here.
first responders clean it up, that part of the city is just completely covered in sand.
Of Clan Adachi.
I bought Spider-Man 2 on day one. I pre-ordered it. There was a massive line outside JB Hi-Fi coming to pick up this game on day one. I haven't seen a line like that in so long for a pre-order. And I played the main story in about 12 or 13 hours straight. I really did just, yeah.
Used by the women of Clan Adachi.
I took a little break in the middle, but
their family.
it was so damn fucking good. And it's such a shame to see how much people have kind of walked that back.
Trying to escape.
Don't get me wrong, I'm extremely disappointed that there's not going to be a DLC or a story DLC for it. I really wanted to see the Carnage DLC. That was what I was most excited for. I think that was probably the biggest side mission in the main game. I just think that all the hate this game has been getting with the news of no story DLC, and for that reason, for people giving the game hate, is completely baseless. It's unjustified, and it's just wrong. I think this game is a masterful, well-written, and well-acted, and fucking well-crafted sequel to Spider-Man PS4, and it was such a joy to play. I wish, obviously, there was more of it, but I am so happy with what we got. I think it's a phenomenal game. I cannot wait for the future of Insomniac Marvel games. And Spider-Man 2, it's forever going to be a great game to me. I don't care what anyone else says online. Just because there's not going to be any story DLC, I don't think that's any reason to tear the game down for absolutely no reason.